with you tonight once again on the business couch. And for those who can remember and can recall, we had a phenomenal time with Dr. Owen Rawlins at the last installment of our business couch. So I'm gonna ask you to let us know where you're joining in from. I'm gonna ask you to let us know where you're connecting in from. We want to acknowledge you. We want to greet you. We want to say hi. We want to thank you, and we're just excited tonight to bring a level of training, development, impartation that can facilitate growth, even in your life, even in whatever capacity you are involved in business. So I wonder if you can let us know where you're joining in from. We would appreciate that. And let somebody know that we are live, the business couch is live, and we're going to engage in some great dialogue tonight. And Dr. Owen is going to share some of his wealth of experience with us. And I'm going to ask Dr. Owen tonight, quickly before we actually start with our statement tonight, is what are you anticipating for tonight, Dr. Owen?
No, I'm just sort of just anticipating that anyone in a business or thinking about a business would really just be able to focus this evening, just to be able to gain a greater focus in terms of what they're planning to do with the business, how they're planning to grow that business, to scale that business, for the business to become more profitable. As I was saying earlier, that there's a bottom line for any of us that go into business. We want to make money. And I think that's why we all gathered here this evening, because we want to be able to generate the profits that we do. And I'm just hoping that this evening, by the end of this evening, people will be more directed and have a few more tools just to be able to help them to grow their businesses and to make them be more profitable.
Well, thank you for that, Dr. Owen. That's phenomenal. And I see we've got a few folk on tonight. Thank you. Carol and Gordon, welcome. Claudine Welsh, good evening, welcome. And let us know where you're joining in from. We want to acknowledge you. We want to say thank you for your time. We appreciate that you could be doing anything else, but you are here with us tonight. And we want to say thank you. God bless you. And I'm going to ask you, if you can do us a favor, if you can share this video, we would appreciate that. Let somebody know we are live and we're going to talk about all things business. I'm reminded of one fact, the great book says this, wherever your treasure lies, there you will find your heart. And most times economy is linked to our hearts. And our hearts has the nobility to demand that we grow, we become greater, we become better, and we move in the development of what our vision is for our lives. And sometimes economy facilitates that. And we should never think badly about economy and finances and all of that, because I believe it's a tool that will facilitate so much in your life. And tonight we want to help you with that, and we want to cause that to be your portion tonight. So I see Pastor Gary's on and Tanaya's on and Fredlin's on. Good evening, guys. Welcome. And if you guys can share this broadcast, we would appreciate that. I'm just going to ask Dr. Owen one more question before we actually start. Is, in the vast experience of being involved in business, what is the one thing that you can leave with us tonight? It doesn't have to be deep, it doesn't have to be just something off the top of your head that you can leave with us tonight.
I think the most important thing is to know your product, or to know your service, to know actually what it is that you're doing and be able to drill that down. I think that's always important, and that helps us to focus, and then we can use all our resources and our energy on that one thing rather than just sort of hitting at anything and hoping that something will happen. But we need to be able to drill down, focus, and let that be the thing that brings us success.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you know, in the last business couch, we began to discuss things related to how does a business pivot. We began to look at know your product, as Dr. Owen highlighted and referenced. Now, know your product. You can't sell or you can't give something to somebody that you yourself don't understand and you yourself don't know in depth. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Owen, Dr. Owen now, and he's going to share a few highlights, a few points that we're going to examine and look at in depth. And at the end of it, we're going to give everyone an opportunity to ask some questions so that we can go through these questions. Over to you, Dr. Owen.
Okay, thanks. Good evening, guys. It's good to be back again. Really excited about this evening. Just looking forward to sharing again together. And I was saying the bottom line is no matter what business you're in, whether it's developing products or service, the one aim we all have is to be profitable. How we say to make money. That is our one intention in business. Nobody goes into a business hoping that it will fail. Nobody goes into business wanting to be bankrupt, but everybody goes into business to be profitable. And one of the important things, I think almost the first step in being profitable is to be able to determine pricing and to be able to come up with a proper way to come up with the prices that we have in order to charge us prices. And sometimes when you ask people, so how did you arrive at the price? How did you determine that is the price for your service or for your product? And sometimes it's just a thumbs up. We just saw a price somewhere else and we decided that's a good price. Or maybe we're in a market where price is dictated to us and we just take that. But there's never any thought that goes beyond that. Because we know with an incorrect price, be it too high or too low, your business will suffer. You could end up having to use your own resource and eventually the business could close. But it's important that we learn and we look at our own situation and we be able to determine the correct price for our service or for our product. But it's almost like an easy thing, but it's actually quite complex because it's not only yourself that you've got to look at and your own experience and your own environment and your own situation. You've obviously got a business environment that you work within. You've got competitors within that market. And it's all about being able to take all of these different influences to be able to come up with what your price is. And if you don't hear anything else about price this evening, there's two things I want to look at. One is cost and one is value. A lot of the time in business, we only look at the cost of what it actually costs us to produce a product or to give a service. And then we just then decide 20% or 25% is a good markup. And that's the price that we come up. But sometimes the very important thing that we forget is what is the value that is actually added to the users of our services? What is the value that is actually added to the customer? You know, if you always think about a plumber, if you're having, you know, your house is flooding at night and the guy comes out, it's probably 5 Rand for petrol, 5 Rand for his time to be here. And in South Africa, you could probably leave it a bill of close to 2,500, 3,000 Rand for a plumber coming after hours. But it's all about what is the value that he has added to you. So number one, you don't have to sit in a flooded house. And also you can be able to get on with the rest of your life because now your water flows easily on there. So it's not only about costs, but it's also value that is added that we need to obviously take into account.
No, that is so good, Dr. Owen, and you know, just adding to or just wanting to drill down even further into value and into cost. You know, how do we troubleshoot some of these components that add to cost and add to value? What sort of research model would you suggest we deploy in terms of getting the relevant information that informs our costing and informs, you know, the values or the value that is needed?
Okay, so I think that the first thing, just in terms of your own business, you'll obviously have a fixed cost and variable cost, right? So your fixed cost will basically be the cost that you carry, irrespective of whether you do any business for the month. So that could be building staff, if you got any loans, if you got anything on lease, those type of things that you'd have to pay insurances. And then your variable costs are the things that are directly related to providing that service. So maybe it will be raw materials, you're bringing in extra staff to provide the service. If it's products that you're buying, so it's a cost of acquiring those products to give over to other people. And your pricing, you need to be aware of both your fixed costs and your variable cost when you determine your price. And even with the fixed cost, it's something that needs to be drilled down, because sometimes a lot of things that we overlook in terms of what is the actual cost to me to have the business, what is the actual cost to me to provide that service. And then
Wow.
your pricing needs to be able to take care of your fixed cost, your variable cost, and obviously there's profit that needs to come through that. And obviously with our profits, it's going to be both obviously short term and long term. And with that, with our increased profit, our revenue, or let me say with the profit at least, we need to be able to grow the business, whether it's expanding or bringing in more staff or bringing in more, more capex and those kind of things. And it's those kind of things that we need to plan for, rather than just living from one job to the next or one service to the next. But we actually need to have a long range view when we are doing business.
So just to, this is invaluable information, and for the listeners out there, I hope you are getting what Dr. Owen is sharing, because it's profound, and I want to just drill down into a little bit more into long range planning, and looking at the how does a startup business that doesn't have the experience, doesn't have you know the capital per se, and it doesn't have indicators from previous years to inform their budgeting for the year. And how would you advise startup companies to look at things with a long range view?
I think the important thing is going to be then to ask yourself, why have you actually come into this business? So you obviously would have seen some kind of an opportunity that would take you into that. I think, and one very important way of starting a business is to go what they call the lean business. So instead of spending lots of money on capex and resource and staff, you look at what is the lean way to actually run this business. So there you can start to look at what are the kind of things that you can outsource, what are kind of services that other people can provide for you as you get moving in that, so that you're not having to
Wow.
inject too much capital in all at once to keep it going. And then I think also an important thing is, as I've said before, it's very dangerous to get involved in businesses that you don't know anything about. To get involved in into business environments that one has no understanding of. So it's all those kind of things that would one would be able to see opportunities. And I think with that, you'll be able to look and say, okay, in this particular sector that I want to go in, I can see this is the move, this is the way the sector is moving. And I can see this is where an opportunity is, and you start picking yourself and positioning yourself towards that. So we need to really research market sectors, everything before we start to put all our eggs in one basket in terms of growing a business.
Mm. Wow, I like that, and so now that we are actually talking about cost and value, and we've drilled down into understanding fixed cost and variable cost, and determining how we're going to model our costings and the values to make a profit. The next question I wanna pose to you, Doc, is now that we understand that how are we going to run this business, because of course we've understood the variable costings, the fixed costings, we understand the values and the cost. How do we now position ourselves to say, okay, I have an understanding of my product. I know my product. I know that there's a gap in the market, and I know that if I do this thing well, I'm gonna make a profit. But how do we get to the place of profit?
Okay, that's an interesting one. Before I move into that, I just want to backtrack slightly. As
Okay.
I said, obviously, you're also dealing with in a competitive environment. So it doesn't really help too much if I only looked at my internal cost and then I price myself outside of the market because I'm way more than what my competitors are. And at the same time, I also can't just look at competitors and decide because he charges 150 Rand, I want to cut him, by 140 Rand and decide that's my price. I need to also understand, as I said, what is the cost to me? What is the cost drivers? And what really is the cost of sales within that environment? And coming to your question, I think the important thing we're going to need to ask ourselves is why should people do business with me?
Hmm.
Why should people come and buy my product? Why should people seek my service? And that is then called a value proposition. What is it that makes me different from my competitors? And sometimes those are the things that, allow customers to come to you, attract customers to come to you. And that's also the thing that makes you stand out in the market. And sometimes, with those things, we need to look at maybe we have a superior product. Maybe it's the fact that we provide convenience for people. It's the ease of use of the product. We can get the product to them quickly. We are reliable. We have good after sales service. We have sort of a good resource base to be able to support all of that. And those are the things that make us stand out in the market. And I think for each one of us, we need to drill down and get to that and say, what is it that makes people want to do business with me?
Wow, this is so profound. What is it that makes people want to do business with me? I think that's a very, very, very powerful question. I think when I look at it from my understanding is everyone on a journey going somewhere, and when you're driving on a country road, it's predictable that you're gonna see livestock. You'll see brown cows, you'll see black cows, you'll see black and white cows. But what's interesting about seeing all of this livestock is you'll always stop and notice the one that is distinctly different. In other words, the purple cow. So I guess what you are alluding to, Dr. Owen, why must people do business with me? Another way of putting it is, what is my purple cow? For your business, what is your purple cow? For some, it might be, and I think when you were talking to me, you began to elaborate about the concept of the different types of hotels. Some are for comfort, some are for basic. I think let's examine that and let's drill down into that because I found that very informative and very insightful as to how to position my business, how to position the areas of expertise I have. Just let us drill down into that, Doc.
Okay, so as I was saying, I think you need to determine what. So when it comes to that, if you look at hotels, 3 star, 5 star, those guys have decided what kind of market they want to play in. They have decided who is their customer segment that they're targeting. And they've then gone on to understand that. And then obviously, even within those, we still have these factors that make them specialized or make them different. And I think in terms of, as I was saying earlier, that's the one thing that we need to look at. What is it that makes us different? And it's not always about just creating, some kind of specialized service that a very small percentage of people want. But in the greater market, what is
Wow.
it that makes me different, that
Wow.
makes people want to come for that? And I think with that, it's the drivers and everything else in your business that will support that. So if I look at, let's say, like a market segment, is my business or is my product directed more towards older people or younger people? Is it directed more in terms of gender? Is it directed more in terms of income? Because you find that older people and younger people desire different things. They want different things from their interaction with you. People with lots of money and people with little bit of money have different expectations of what they require. And that is not always down to price.
Mm.
But
Right.
it's actually that touch, their interaction with you that makes that difference.
Mm.
So if you are a web-based company, then you need to spend more time making sure that when people get on and they get onto your app or they get onto your website, that it's easy for them to use.
Right.
It's easy for them to navigate. It's easy to, if it's like Planet thing where there's orders, it's easy to place orders. It's easy to get the things back. With that, you then need to look at who are the kind of people that you're going to get to support it. Are you going to hook up with Uber? Are you going to hook up with Take a Lot? And those kind of things. Those people that share the same values as you to
Wow.
then get the product over
Wow.
to your customers. My wife supported a family member that had started a business, and the product needed to come from a different province to us. So she's like, I want the product, but I want the product in 2 days' time. And the person's like, okay, I got these depots that I use, and it goes here, and it's probably going to come in a week's time. And, and it was like that type of a thing. And by the time she had to go to the depot to pitch this thing, it was very far away from where she usually goes. So it actually became quite an effort to go and
Yeah.
pitch the product, support the business, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
you find a lot of the time, initially when people support us because they feel sorry for us, they want us to get going and that type of thing. But I think what was key in this is that when she gave him feedback and she explained that actually it was difficult for me to get a hold of the product. Maybe what you can then look at is maybe look at getting some kind of an overnight delivery with a courier, put a fee on it, and someone who wants the product quickly will be prepared to pay for that convenience.
Mm.
And by the time she got the second order, the product was actually brought right to her to the door.
Wow.
And it's like those kind of things. So sometimes we lose it because we're not speaking to our customers, we're not getting feedback from our customers. We
Wow.
are so sort of dogmatic in terms of what our approach is,
Mm.
and we're not able to adapt. So I think with that, pivoting sometimes is a big thing that you do in a business, but you need to be able to be adaptable. You need to be agile. You need to be able to adapt to the changing needs of your customers. I mean, with that, it reminds me. I supported a barber for many years, went for him from a very young age, and the way we grew up, used to get to the barber and just hope that there's nobody there when you get there. And if you're unlucky, you might be number 15 or 20, but you wait there because you're going to pay this 2 rand for the haircut, and you just keep waiting. And as life changes, you realize that actually to sit at a barber and wait for 3 hours for the haircut is just a waste of money. So I was to say to this guy, why don't you make one chair, for appointments and put a premium on it,
Yeah.
and you'll find that people who want that will be prepared to pay for that. Then the next thing he
Mm.
says, no, what if they don't come? Then the next thing we go into now, in terms of supporting your value, is what kind of revenue streams are you looking at? So that
Wow.
guy, as I say, was just basically fixated just on a fee for service, on a payment for service. He never
Mm.
bothered to look at what if you made people have contracts.
Mm. Wow.
So you pay for 10 haircuts and you must have them within 2 months. If you don't have them, then you lose out, or those type of things. Or what are
Wow.
the add-on services that we can add? Well, needless to say, obviously, I eventually stopped going to that guy. Not because he doesn't give a good haircut, but just because he couldn't adapt to my changing needs, and I then have to find somebody else who's able to accommodate that. So I think sometimes we lose customers when we start in one point and we become fixated on that rather than
Mm.
allowing the business to grow and adapt and sometimes even, diversify. Maybe you can have sort of one almost like a low-cost barber where people are prepared to wait for 3 hours and somewhere else where you charge a premium.
That's so good.
Because the bottom line is everybody needs a haircut.
That's so good.
Or if you like Uncle Phil, everybody needs a hair plaited. So it's like that type of a thing.
Mm. No, that's so good. And you began to talk about be adaptable and feedback. My background is education, and whenever we needed to develop a new curriculum within the university, there were three key stakeholders that we consulted with. In fact, four. It was the academic dean, it was the lecturers, it was the professionals and the experts in that field, and it was the students. Because the students, ultimately, we were writing content and curriculum for students. So they needed to be part of the experience. So they needed to feed back to us what worked for them, what didn't work for them, and where can we improve. And I found that so valuable, so profound, that every year we would enhance. We call it academic enhancement, where we would enhance the programs. Perhaps you can just elaborate and drill down a little bit on how we handle, as a business, how do we handle feedback, and who do we approach for feedback?
I think the best person for feedback is the user of your product. You know that those are the best people that are going to be able to let you know. And sometimes if you're keeping track of that, maybe if you were selling cabbages, maybe, and someone was buying cabbages from you for a while and then they stopped buying, there's nothing wrong from asking that person what has caused them to stop buying. Maybe it's different things that cause people to stop, to stop using the products. I think that would definitely be the number one. And that's what we do in our practice. If there's going to be any improvements that are going to be made, be they big or small, we ask the users of that product for, And yes, in any business, you're going to get people that are high maintenance and people that are low maintenance, and some people eventually realize, okay, these are people are part of your customer segment. These are people are part of your target market, and others are not. And that's also okay. But for the ones who remain, we need to know what is it that makes them remain, or what
Wow.
is it that makes them not use the product. And as I'm saying, those are like the best people to actually, to help us in that. And I think also don't, just be in isolation in the market that you're playing in. Get to know your competitors. Be able to speak to them. And look, I'm not talking about price fixing and colluding and that type of thing, but there's always someone whose business is bigger than yours, or someone whose business seems to
So
be
good.
more
So good.
advanced than yours. And
Mm.
that person usually is more able or more willing to give you some kind of advice to help you from where you are to be able to grow, because they're number one, they don't see you as a threat. So it's like those type of things. So don't just sit in isolation. So you actually need to be speaking to players within your market, players within your sector, players within your industry, just to help you to move forward with that.
Man, this is so good. And you know, and I want to go back a little bit, and I know we touched at length on pivoting, and you gave examples of pivoting in a business and how crucial it is. And I think when you highlighted, as a business owner, and for somebody that's considering going into business, the ability to be adaptable, and to be flexible and agile. You know, can you just recap a little bit about the pivoting and why pivoting is so necessary? And in order for you to pivot, why being adaptable and agile underpins pivoting and is so critically important that business owners
Mm,
are able to walk in this.
mm. Yeah, so I think a lot of time, obviously, you start a business and it's by luck or something. Uh, are you finding with me, Phil?
I'm good. I'm good. Owen, can you hear me?
Okay, you fine, Phil?
Yeah, I'm good. Oh,
Okay, as I say, so you put your blood, sweat, and tears into the business. You go through that. It takes off. You get to a place, these nice returns. You start to grow the business. You get some capex to go into. Every sort of good idea that you had. And sometimes it's things that happen within the environment, or it's new players that come into the market that then affect that business that you've established at that point. And then you can either do one of two things. You can either be dogmatic in the fact that you built this business and it's profitable now, or you can look around and actually see what is actually coming into the space that you're playing in. What are those drivers? Who are these guys that are disrupting the markets? What is it that they're doing differently? And then you can be able to swing over and pivot into that. And that pivoting can be one of two things. Number one, it can be just be changing your business model, or it can be moving into a completely different market or completely different sector or a completely different game. And I think one of the nice one that stands out with that is this thing where you make videos. YouTube actually started as a dating site, trying to put people together. And now, so you used to make videos and put them out there and hope somebody, so it was beyond the pen pal kind of a thing. So at least the person could see you almost getting your swag going, and they could be attracted to you. But that didn't really work for them. And we know YouTube is one of the biggest platforms for homemade videos or any kind of videos or teachings or anything like that. When it comes to being established in the market and really just being a fall down, if you think about blockbusters, I think we all know them. We got DVDs from them, we got videos from them, we got games from them, the whole works. It was all this bricks and mortar. And with the movement of the internet and the evolution of the internet and things going more online, we saw Netflix then came in, and Netflix just came with a very good catalog. And through that, it was then the end of blockbusters, because people were like, why should I leave my house in order to watch a movie and have all the inconvenience of taking it back and forth when I can have a whole catalog from the comfort of my house?
Come on.
But then you see Netflix didn't even stop there, because obviously other players came into the market. And if you're a Netflix user now, you'll see that there's lots of movies and lots of things and series that are made for Netflix by Netflix. So that's your way of differentiating themselves and sort of, preventing other people from stealing that market of yours. So obviously, if you look at them in terms of what their key activities are, the key resources, obviously initially they just needed software guys and they needed to be able to store those catalogs. Now they've gone further. I mean, I've been using Netflix for a long time, and you spend a lot of time initially trying to look for something to watch. But now with them got their own stuff, they got algorithms, so they can now give you hints and maybe what you want to use, what you want to see. We saw you enjoy this, do you want to see that? And it's those kind of things that then make it easier to use. But at the same time, now they've got movie houses, they've got studios, they've got producers, they've got actors, they've got the whole thing. And that business has just continued to pivot and to move, even from the point where it disrupted an industry. And I think for each of us, that's the kind of thing that we constantly need to be looking at. Don't get stuck or left at the last place of your success.
Wow. I mean, that's so profound. I love that. And just to pick up again, we began to talk about a whole range of things, and we began to talk about value, and we began to talk about cost. In talking about these things, Dr. Owen, I can imagine, and you began to elaborate and teach us about, the barber and that experience. I want to just pick your brain in terms of service delivery must match the product experience, or must match the product experience rather. So let's examine that, and let's drill down into that, because I know sometimes we develop products and customers are not really happy, customers are not engaging. We have a great product per se that has the potential to be a game changer in business, but the service delivery is not there, and of course we see it sometimes in governments, we see it sometimes in huge corporations. I mean, that corporation has the ability to be, a superpower, but their service delivery lets them down. Let's drill down. What are the indicators to avoid bad service delivery?
I think the first thing we're going to do is upskill ourselves as business owners, all right, in terms of our product, in terms of our service. I'm sure we've all had it experience when you're not too happy with with the product that is received, and all you get is BS from the person who's supposed to be the authority on this. And you can see right through that. And all you're thinking at that point is, I won't spend another cent here. But anyway, that's it, that's my school fees done. I'm out of here. So I think then it's a holistic approach. So if you're sort of in the service industry, and this is what I found, number one, when we start, we always want to start just with people that we know, people with no experience. We want to go on the cheap, but we don't actually upskill those people. So we don't actually allow them to have that experience of what service actually is. And I think when they become upskilled and they have those experiences, it's then easier for them to give that experience to others. But a lot of the time, we're expecting our staff to give things that they don't have, or we don't put enough time and effort into training. And actually, training is going to be more important than actually just putting your product out there. And you don't have to have hours and hours on end. You see some of the biggest stores, they take a half an hour a week just for training. And that's something that we need to do. Appreciation for our staff. Little things that just show them that we appreciate and get them to buy into that. But I think over and above that, it needs to be, as I said, an holistic approach. I know, okay, as a dentist, we use labs. So we do clinical work. We send it the stuff that's made in the labs, your dentures, your crowns, orthodontic appliances. That comes back, and then you obviously fit it for the patient. And before I was really serious about value creation and experience, I was one of those that was driven by price, and all we're looking for, which is the cheapest lab? Who's the guy that can continuously do it cheaper? And you go to those guys, and when you start, or at least when I became more aware that it's about value, that it's about, people's experience, I found that those guys were then hampering my business, because I would take great care to prepare it, and they give me things that don't fit, or things that take a long time to adjust, and then you have to send things back, and it just wasn't a good experience. And then when I got guys who shared the same philosophy that I did, that it's about value, that it's about, customer feel, that it's about being right the first time, I found that then just added to my business. And it made it more enjoyable for me, and obviously gave my patients a better experience. And through that, it just, the business just became more and more profitable. So I think it's definitely about your suppliers and your networks that you use that need to be able to use, give the same kind of value. So when it comes to value creation, I don't think it's not so much about what is cheap, but it's actually about what is going to add to what we are actually doing.
That's so good. I'm just taking some notes there. That's so good. At this point, I'm gonna ask all our listeners, if you have any questions, please do type it in the comment section. We would love to answer some of the questions that you may have. So please feel free to ask those questions, because we're going to spend some time answering those questions. You talk about training staff. One of the terms in the corporate world they use is continuous professional development. And I think for me personally, that is from my human resource background, continuous professional development is of utmost importance. And I love what Dr. Owen alluded to. You can take half an hour before the shift actually starts to train on a weekly basis. And I think that is so pertinent. It keeps you up to date. It keeps you relevant. It keeps you on the cutting edge. It keeps you in the know. And I wanna share this with some people. Oftentimes we make the statement, knock and it will be open to you. Seek and you will find. Ask and it will be given to you. But there's a skill and there's a key to where you knock, to who you ask, and to who you seek. Dr. Owen began to talk about, networking within the network of your industry. That is the door. Something I've learned, you never knock on a door that's unfamiliar to you. You always knock on a door that's familiar to you. So in the context of your business, that business is familiar to you. Knock on those doors. Then it says ask and you will be given. In other words, you gotta be having the right conversations behind that door. You gotta be networking behind that door. I think it's of utmost importance that you get out there. And I think Dr. Owen began to touch on this. Don't isolate yourself. And I think in business or in any relationship that you have, you cannot isolate yourself, because I personally believe isolation breeds weakness. We have a question here from Euro Pring.
Yuri,
I think
from
that's
Yuri.
so. What trading platform is progressing now more than ever? More than the other marketplace, like take a lot, or your own website for business if we're talking about selling products, or last option, shop on the road or more. I'll leave that for you to answer, Doc.
I think with that, it obviously it comes down to the market that you're serving. And I think obviously more and more people are wanting the convenience of the product coming to them. As I said, obviously in South Africa, we got Take a Lot. I know lots of people are even using Uber now to do deliveries for them. So you need to send a little box across. A courier is going to be a bit more expensive, might take a little longer. And Uber is something that's a lot more direct. But having said that, there's definitely still a need for those small shops on the road or the small shops within the malls, because there's still people that love to do that. And I would say it's almost a case of being able, if one is able to almost be in both markets if you can. But you don't need the massive building and spending all of that on that type of infrastructure if that is not the type of business that you're running.
Mm.
So one really just needs to look at that. I know, I mean, it's just, I think car dealers are also looking at that. If a guy is upgrading to the same, like a 3 Series BM every 5 years or 3 years, whatever the case is, why does he have to keep on going somewhere else to see that? Surely by now they know that's what he does. And that can obviously then be a more personal interchange, because no matter what it is, he's going to upgrade to the new one anyway. So he doesn't need to go to the shop and go through all of that trouble in order to do that.
Mm. That's so good. What? That's so good, Doc. Are there any other questions? Because we want to answer as many questions as we possibly can. I'm gonna ask Doc a question, and the question is this. You spoke about diversifying, and what happens in the event that your product is great. People are buying your product, people are investing into your product, but at the long range view, because when you introduce your subject tonight, you began to teach us about having a long range view of things. The long range view is that you need to pivot, you need to diversify, you need to shift a little bit. But the success of this product is booming. How do you now navigate these two components?
There's a term, and they call it, trying to think what dog they call it. So you can get a business, a company that has a product that has been going for a long time. It's not really in terms of the cutting edge, in terms of technology or anything like that, but it's something that people want. It's something that people use. I think if you look at Toyota in South Africa, they're very good at that. So they always take the old model vehicle and create something cheaper and use the same things that they used before to create that cheaper kind of vehicle. So to say what you're going to actually do with that is, if you got something that is that great, that doesn't really cost you anything more to produce, that is highly profitable, there's no need to get rid of something like that, especially if it's something that people are always looking for. And you can actually then use the profits from that to then maybe get a product that could be more profitable in a sense, or something that is more cutting edge. But I think also what's important when you speak about diversifying, I think the last time we spoke about that is what is your competitive advantage? What is your competitive edge? What is your core, your core abilities? And those are the kind of things that we need to look at. So if you look at Uber Eats or Uber here in South Africa, it was just about movement of people. Now it's movement of food. Now it's movement of goods. So it's essentially all the same business model, but all the time just looking at something else to diversify and actually broaden their service offering. And I think that's what it is. So we're not always saying you necessarily need to be, in property and in pharmacy and in pharmaceuticals and and in every kind of thing. But you can take that skill, and if it allows you to go into different sectors and different fields, then that's great, and you can use that.
That's so profound. My God. Thank you for that, Doc. We got another question here. What's the best way to grow a home-based business? I need to take the next step to have a business premises. What are your suggestions?
I think the best way to grow a home-based business is to take that business online. And with that, you then get partners to do your deliveries for you. I remember, I think it was one of my kids' birthday parties. Uh, Somebody made a cake, and on the morning I had to fetch his cake. And man, what a mission to go and fetch that cake. I was like, if this person was really online, I was like, the only other thing that is missing here now is just some kind of a service. And for me, I would have paid that extra 100 and 150 rand for that cake to be brought to me because I could value that kind of service that would come through. So I think maybe when it comes to home-based business, try and sort of maximize until you have to go and get that shop. Or alternatively, you could get a smaller shop and do all your warehousing at home, kind of a thing, and just get those other drivers in the business to get that
Oh,
to
good.
get that going for you and to drive the rest of that business for you. As I was saying, it's definitely about your key partners. That will be needed. I mean, if we look at it, I know here in South Africa, if you go like to some of the biggest stores, you buy a piece of furniture, you can't take it there and then, even if you've got a truck, because that thing is in a warehouse and it still needs to be brought to you. And it's like those kind of things that we can obviously start to look at. I think maybe also with a home-based business, what you can actually do is maybe introduce a few other products into what you're doing. Just to, they could be complementary products. So if you're selling bread and milk, maybe you can add cool drink, add chips, add those other kind of things that could help to grow the business. And also with that, sometimes what we can look at is, bread and milk is something that people always need. Okay, I'm just using like that kind of example. And this can apply to any business. What are the things that people always need. And sometimes you can price those correctly to get the people in, because they're not only going to leave with bread and milk, they're going to leave with a few other products. And then you can increase your profitability on those other products that will then be able to move for you. So you can use some to get feet in the door, and you can
Wow.
use other products to bring that, the increased profits and revenue for you.
So good. Wow. This is just phenomenal. Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. I know you guys have been blessed tonight. Are there any other questions that we need to ask Doc? He's here. You
And I
know,
think with a home-based business, you need to tell everybody that you're in business. You know what I mean? That needs to become your thing. You come up to people, you let them know you're in business. You meet a school friend you haven't met for a long time, you let them know you're in business. In the good old days, we used to give out business cards. Oh, you go on Facebook, you invite every last person, you put your product on there, you push it, you know what I mean, and
wow.
that thing and get it going. And I think then it also needs to go beyond just your community. You need to push it out far and wide and really get it out there. And as I said, I think a lot of the time what handicaps us is we have a good product, but sometimes we are selling that product to the wrong market. So it looks like it's not a good, it's actually a good idea, but you need to be able to get that product to the right market that is prepared to pay for that product. And then you need to make it easy for those people to be able to access to access your product. And then the next thing you need to look at, I think, with a home-based business is, how people are able to pay, the ease of paying for stuff. Personally, it just gets me if I go in a shop and then they say they don't take cards. I'm like, in this day and age, are we supposed to carry now a lot of cash when there's so many different things and different ways, to make it easy for us to pay? You can even use an e-wallet, man. I've said that to people sometimes. Hey, give me your cell number. Let me just give you the money. It's like those kind of things, and we can actually make it easier then for people to, to sell. In South Africa, they got some of these smaller that are not bank related in terms of the payment, operating services. So you can just have that thing in your pocket. Now they've upgraded where you can actually send a link to people via WhatsApp, and then they can do the payments there for you, and they can release your products and that type of thing. So there's so many different ways to make it very easy that people far away from you can actually get access to your products.
Wow. This is phenomenal.
Oh, my wife just told me, sorry, that POS, in South Africa is called a Yoko. It's actually very cheap. You can buy the thing for $3.99. I think they take about 2% of what you're taking. You can send links to people to do payments for you. It's safe. It's easy to use. It's just so great. So those are the kind of things that we can start to use. So I think a lot of the time with a home-based business is that interface for people who are not within walking distance to you. Otherwise your business is going to be hampered by the fact that people are not able to get to you, people are not able to engage with you, and that type of thing. As I said, like with my wife's family friend, that business could have been hampered by the fact that he didn't think about getting the products to people who don't live down the road from him and been able to get it to them with convenience. So there's actually lots and this is what we all call a lean setup. If you look at the bigger businesses, they've got all of these different departments going. But now I think with this e-technology, there's so many different platforms that we can actually use to get our products, to get them out to people.
Wow.
And let's not forget, a lot of these big businesses, Apple and all, they all started in people's garages. And today they're massive. And that's it. So don't despise small beginnings. And I think it's been made so much easier now that, in a small beginning, you can look like a big player just by using the right platforms to get your products across.
Wow. Doc, this is so phenomenal. There's one thing that really shocked me with Dr. Owen. We were having a conversation regarding business. And of course, he, for me, is somebody I look up to. I call him my mentor when it comes to business. Any decision that I'm about to make, I check with him. What do you think, Doc? Do you think I can do this? Do you think I can do that? What are your thoughts? And he'll tell me, have you considered this? Why do you want to get that? Can you make a profit off of that building? Why do you want to get that building? Is it really necessary? Why you want to buy that thing? What's it going to feel? Is it going to support the bigger scheme of things? And then he made a statement to me that shook the living daylights out of me. He said, Phil, listen to me. If people don't want to buy into what you're giving them, that's not your market. There's a market for you. People will pay what you're offering. Don't waste your time on people who don't want to make the investment in what you're giving them. Lastly, and I just want you just to add, more meat to that statement, because that statement, because we come with the whole humble, trying to make it work, and in business you're trying to do this and you're focusing on the wrong client. Just put some meat on the bone here before we finish tonight, Doc.
I think, as I say, for all of us, I think we all start there. We all want to start with people that we know. We want them, to buy our products. And then the first thing we hear them say, oh, this guy is expensive. and then they go. Then we look at trying to, drop the price, and we're trying to cut this, and we're trying to discount things. But as I said, if you had actually thought, and put thought into how you actually got to the price and the value that you create, then actually discounting is actually not the way to go. Even discounting is something that we should think more about, because too heavy a discount makes people think that maybe the price was just inflated initially, or if the price is too low, we say low price, it must be an inferior product. It's like that type of thing that comes across. So I think we actually just need to sometimes think. Sometimes we have people that work for companies, and then they decide they want to go on their own businesses. They were serving particular market segments with the companies that they work for. And those are the markets that they are familiar with. And so they are familiar with pricing structure, they're familiar with what the customers want. And then they try to bring that and they take it into another market that either doesn't appreciate the service or doesn't appreciate, the pricing and the value add that goes into that. And I think that's when the conflict comes. So I would say, if you're going to start a business, start it in the sector that you're familiar with.
That's so profound. Well, guys, this tonight has been phenomenal. I've learned so much. This is something that I look forward to, because we can all do something. We can all start somewhere. We can all go somewhere with what God has given us. Tonight we learned about the purpose behind business is to be profitable and never be afraid of making a profit. We learned about determining prices, so there has to be an element of research and thought given to what business you want to go into. Then Doc began to talk about the cost and the value, and what value is added to the customers based off of the cost. Then we began to differentiate between fixed cost and variable cost, and how it's essential to understand and to be aware of the costing that goes into a business. And then he began to teach us about the lean business model, and then he began to encourage us that it's okay when necessary to outsource. You don't have to be, the big needs in the business. You can outsource and get things done. Began to talk about measure the costing against competitors, and look at your cost drivers. Don't be isolated, and you began to teach us about the purpose behind why you're doing business. Understand what the areas you are called into business-wise, and lastly, upgrade the skill of the company. Not only you as the owner, but your staff as well. Appreciation of the staff, and look at your competitive advantage. And of course, we navigated, and we went into the vein of pivoting again. And just a few last words from Dr. Owen tonight as we conclude tonight's session.
Also, don't undervalue yourself and don't underestimate yourself. And if it's going to take a little longer, then let it take a little longer. I'm bought a new practice now. It's a very different market to what I've worked in before. I'm learning about a very different market sector, different demands. Our whole fee structure is very different to what I'm used to before. And sometimes, you can have like a quiet day, and then the phone rings, and then I hear my receptionist telling somebody, well, this is our fee structure. And then they say, well, actually, we're looking for, a medical aid practice, or we're looking for something a lot cheaper. And there's almost a temptation at that point to say, hey, let them come here. We're not doing anything right now. But we're like, no. That's not the market that we are serving. That's not the sector that we are serving. There's a particular sector that we serve. And with that sector, what they also want is availability. You know what I'm saying? So they don't want to hear that they must come in 3 weeks' time when they want to see you. They want to see you. So obviously they need to pay for that availability. And it's the same thing also, like with our cell phone numbers for emergencies, they want your number. Yeah, and
Wow.
it's like initially, these people are gonna worry, but you realize no, for them that's a value add. Just in case I need it, I must have it. It's like those kind of things all the time that we need to adapt to. So I'm saying once you decide where it is and you're gaining some traction in that, then you just need to hold on a little while longer. Or you can just decide then maybe, as I said, you're gonna get those. Man, the thing just slips my mind now. Those working dogs, almost, if I can say that. So maybe you make specialized cakes. I know somebody who does the specialized cakes. So I see there's good business in that. But there's also a quick turnover on those other square little things. Like, don't be afraid to make those things if they're gonna keep you going. But
Yeah.
you know that this is really, where you're directed. And
Mm,
this is a thing that really just helps to keep your fixed costs under control and do that.
mm. Wow.
But
That's
don't let the fact that the people that want the square cakes don't want to pay for specialized cakes make you stop making specialized cake because there's a market for specialized cakes.
wow. Know your value and don't underestimate
Oh,
what you have. I absolutely love that. And for those of you who don't know, maybe you want a consultation with your business. Something again I've learned. Um, you gotta pay. You gotta determine what sort of product you want first. You gotta determine what sort of experience you want first. And I love what Dr. Owen said. The moment you want to start cutting costs here and cutting costs there, your experience will be hampered. Maybe your business hasn't um, been where it needs to be. I'm all for invest into yourself, make the investment into your business, make the investment into your organization. I know Dr. Owen, you can consult with him, whatever he charges you, pay it. Because I'm telling you, that will be the unlocking for so much wealth that will come into your life. I've seen it for myself. And I want to encourage those who are here today, follow us on this journey. We will be back again on the business couch. And we are discussing a range of topics to facilitate development in you and in me so that we can grow to our full potential when it comes to economy, when it comes to business, when it comes to business infrastructure. And maybe there are things that we are overlooking that Dr. Owen will bring to our attention. Why, Dr. Owen, you may ask? Is longevity number one. The track record of the success of the man speaks for itself. Never invite somebody into your circle that doesn't have a track record of success to speak into your life. My encouragement to you, is this. It's important. I know the season demands for some of our businesses to pivot, for some of our businesses to diversify. Get in touch with Dr. Owen. Find him on Facebook, on inbox. Set up a date. Let him come in. Let him consult. Let him sit with your structures. Let him help you. Because I guarantee you, he has a key, and this key will unlock the wealth that you've been desirous for. Um, Very powerful business teaching. Thank you, Dr. Owen Rawlins. Where can we go into the business world? Apostle Nathaniel, I will inbox you Dr. Owen's details, and you can send it directly to Dr. Owen. And for those who have been blessed by this tonight, for those who have been encouraged by this tonight, like Apostle Nathaniel has requested, maybe you want to so into this teaching, because let me tell you something, this type of teaching, you go into a Harvard institution, you go into a Gibbs, a business school, get this level of teaching, you're going to pay good money for it. He's availed himself because of the relationship he has with me. I'm saying, let's do our part. Let's avail ourselves to him. So God bless you all. Have a good time. And I'm so excited. We will be back. We're going to be doing the business couch once a month. So get ready. So we've had our February rendition. Go away. Go and work these components in your business. Come back again in March and we will develop this further. We will grow this further. And we're going to be taking students with Dr. Owen, where he will teach them in a private setting. And of course, when we get there, you will hear more about it and we will grow that into it. So everyone, thank you once again, Dr. Owen. Please say good night to our listeners.
Good night, guys. Go ahead. Hit the ground running tomorrow and make lots of money.
Good night. Make all that money, guys. Love you all.
Make it. Don't feel bad. Make it.
Good evening, guys. Love you all and take care. God bless. In
Thanks,
fact,
guys. Bye.